good morning, or good afternoon, or maybe it's evening. It doesn't really matter what time it is, and it doesn't even matter where you are. We want to welcome you to Wholeness Wednesdays. So grab a cup of coffee or tea and join our host, Beatrice Hutchison, as we explore and experience our journey to complete wholeness.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Completely Whole's Wholeness Wednesdays. I'm your host, Beatrice Hutchison, and today we will be diving deep into a topic that touches each and every one of us at some point in our lives. If we live long enough, we will be touched by one of these topics that we will be discussing over the next few episodes. We will be exploring together the journey from brokenness to wholeness. And so, whether we're talking about brokenness to wholeness physically, mentally, spiritually, or financially, each of these areas play a significant role in our overall well being. So, they're all interrelated, they all affect us, and they are all equally important. Now, let's be honest. If we would admit and be really honest with ourselves, we would say that life isn't always easy. It can be very difficult at times. We face moments and we go through situations where we are left feeling broken, defeated, and even overwhelmed. And some of us get stuck in the broken phase and we never find our way to wholeness, much less allow that brokenness to propel us forwards into becoming completely whole. So, today we're going to explore how we can transform that brokenness into wholeness and to live more fulfilling lives. So, get comfortable, grab a pen and paper, open up your minds, and let us get started. Right before we get started, let me give a quick disclosure statement. Although I have degrees in psychology and special education, I am not a mental health, medical, or financial licensed professional. I am simply sharing what I have learned through study and through personal and shared experiences. So let us explore from brokenness to wholeness. What does brokenness even mean? According to the Cambridge Dictionary, brokenness means a condition in which something is badly damaged and unable to continue or work correctly. It also means a state of strong emotional pain that stops someone from living a normal, healthy life. So, we will be talking about our first pillar, which is physical, right? So, we'll be talking about physical brokenness. And physical brokenness can refer to our physical health, our any health conditions or illnesses or ailments, any diseases. All of those are considered physical brokenness because it presents limitations that affect our body's normal functioning. So let's talk about or share some examples of physical brokenness. So you know what I mean when I say physical brokenness. The first is chronic pain. So whether it be back pain, migraines, arthritis, those are chronic pains. And they're usually in relation to some inflammation that is happening within the body. Chronic pain is a long lasting pain that persists beyond the normal recovery period, right? So at a point, you expect that you would have gotten better, but you continue to experience this uncomfortable situation, continue to experience this chronic pain. And it can affect the ability to perform your daily activities, right? It can really lead to emotional distress and overall reduce your quality of life. And so there are things that we could do that could help in the area of inflammation. We see in today's time that there are things in our environment and in the foods we eat that cause inflammation. So many, especially Americans, are experiencing high levels of inflammation in our bodies. So some of the things that we could do to address or to correct or even to prevent having chronic pain would be physical therapy. So that is something that we would engage in to help strengthen muscles, improve posture, and alleviate the pressure on the affected area. So exercise is always good, and stretching and core strengthening, all of those are good when we're talking about chronic pain. We also want to consider pain management. And so that would be the use of course, under the direction of your primary care physician, right? Would be non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, right? And so those you have to be very careful with because they can have adverse effects. All all medications have side effects, right? But you want to be extra careful because that could really wreak havoc on the lining of your stomach and all of those. So you want to make sure you do that under the direction of your doctor. Also, you want to make sure that you put in some relaxation along with the pain reduction or the pain medication. You want to make sure that you're also putting in some rest, allowing the body to rejuvenate and to rest. Another area of brokenness, or can be an example of brokenness, would be if something in your body is actually broken, right? If you have a break in one of your bones or a fracture, any of those types of things would also be considered brokenness in your body. And so if that happens, if whatever, if you fall or you're in some type of situation where there's impact to your body and you experience pain and there's a possibility of something being broken, please do get immediate medical attention, right? And then you want to also be able to advocate. Once you are there, you want to make sure they do what they need to do, take all the proper exams and x-rays and all of those things so that they address the issues that you have. And so after they assess you, find out what it is, they begin to treat you, right? And then after the stage of treatment, once you heal, then you go into a rehabilitation process. And there is when you get your mobility restored, you get more strength and your range of motion is increased, and then you begin to become healed and you're able to kind of resume some of your functions, but in moderation. We also want to consider taking in supplements. A lot of times we are deficient in a lot of vitamins. So vitamin D is one that can be very helpful on the body, as well as calcium is especially good for your bones, your B vitamins, all of those supplements, as well as some essential oils can also be helpful, taken topically, put on your skin. Those things could be extremely helpful. Also, rest and ice, right? So we want to make sure we're resting and we're resting the area and also applying ice on it to reduce that inflammation, especially within the first 48 hours. And then we want to gradually graduate into having some gentle movement so that we prevent stiffness moving forward. So that physical therapy includes the strengthening and the stretching exercises. You want to work in connection with your physical therapist, of course, but that is to help to restore the muscle function and to prevent future injuries. And so also we want to also think about, there are some medications that also help with anti-inflammatory, that it has an anti-inflammatory effect on the body. So although we mentioned the medications that can help the NSAIDs, but we also want to take natural supplements. One that comes to mind is the original Tahitian noni juice. As we move on in some of our episodes, you'll hear more about that. And so it was something that was out a long time ago, but now it is in fact back. But it is a power juice. It does tremendously for inflammation within the body. So you'll hear more about that. Also, when we think about brokenness in the body, we want to also mention autoimmune conditions. And so those are things like multiple sclerosis, irritable bowel syndrome, rheumatoid arthritis. Those types of situations are autoimmune conditions. And so what happens in those situations is that the immune system within our bodies mistakenly attack our healthy tissues, leading to inflammation and damage. So they see our own tissues, our own organs even, as being intruders, and so it attacks it. And so it results in a lot of pain, inflammation, and damage to our organs. And so it can cause a lot of adverse effects and also fatigue and lots of other situations. And so with those types of conditions, there are some things that we can do. So medical management, of course, is one of them, and working with your doctor. They have immunosuppressants and biologics or corticosteroids to help to reduce the inflammation, always remembering that there are also natural alternative methods that could also help to reduce the inflammation in our bodies. And so also you want to think about physical therapy. Again, we've talked about that, but that's really to help the joint mobility and to make sure that the condition does not worsen. Also, energy conservation. So we want to manage our fatigue by pacing our activities, balancing our periods of work and rest, right? We want to have an equal balance there. Another topic that we can talk about when we think about physical brokenness would be heart disease. And so, heart disease encompasses a condition where our coronary artery in our heart is affected, right? So, it's coronary artery disease. And here we see like heart attacks and congestive heart failure. All of those things usually come as a result of like hypertension, and it usually, over the course of time, we escalate into this heart disease. And so we want to make sure that we're doing things that help us to be as healthy as possible and to prevent being in the situation where we are now having issues with our hearts. So we want to adopt a healthy lifestyle, right? So not just a healthy diet, but a healthy lifestyle. So we want to make sure we have a heart healthy diet. We want to not to have so many or not to have any of the saturated fats, all of those things, the red meats, the things that would be harmful in this situation. You want to make sure you maintain a healthy lifestyle. Even myself, I've changed and modified my lifestyle in that it's not a diet. I know they have fads out, with the keto diet, the Mediterranean diets, all of those diets, right? But I did a change and I modified my eating habits. So I cut out all sugars and all starches, all of the dairy products, as well as red meats. So lots of things I cut out just in the pursuit of becoming a healthier version of myself. And it happened over time, but I can tell you that I feel so much better in my body as a result of having changed my eating habits. So another topic that I want to mention is obesity. We don't always think about obesity in relation to having brokenness, right? Or being physically broken. But obesity is when we are storing extra fat in our bodies, and usually the fat will store itself around our our organs and around areas that cause a lot of complications for us because of this additional weight that we're carrying. So there's something, of course, that we can do, and I've been talking about the healthier eating or the healthier lifestyle, but we can speak to a nutritionist, right? So we can do nutrition counseling where we work with the nutritionist to develop a sustainable, balanced eating plan that promotes gradual weight loss, right? So we don't want to have any aggressive weight loss immediately, right? But we want it to be a gradual weight loss. And so you would see that if you have a plan that you're working on, not a diet or a fad, but a diet that is consistent and that is sustainable. Also, you want to engage in exercise. Exercise is good. Many times, many of us have jobs where we have sedentary lifestyles. We sit in front of the computer all day. We're not moving around. It's good to get up and moving because fitness helps to improve those conditions. Also, behavioral therapy. It can be helpful in addressing emotional eating, right? As we go through, some people eat as a result of being stressed out. And so that could be helpful in that predicament. Also, just having overall eating choices and knowing what are options to you, right? Things that you can eat that would be healthier. Something else that's in relation to brokenness is diabetes. Diabetes is a metabolic disorder that affects the body's ability to produce or respond to insulin, resulting in high blood sugar levels. And it leads to complications such as nerve damage, vision loss, as well as cardiovascular issues. what are some things that we can do to help treat or even prevent diabetes? So we can make sure that we use blood sugar management, which means that you're just monitoring your blood glucose levels regularly and you follow a balanced diet that manages carbohydrate, intake, right? And so we always hear about this too many carbs, high in carbs, right? So we want to make sure that we monitor that and make sure that we take in not so much, right? Not an abundance of carbs. Also, the exercise, again, we want to make sure we're doing that because that helps to control the blood sugar levels and it improves our sensitivity to insulin. Also, with diabetics, we often see that they have issues with their eyes, also with their feet, especially around wounds and them healing. So, you want to make sure that you follow up with the podiatrist and ophthalmologist to make sure that you get the best treatment and care possible. Also, we want to talk about spinal injuries. And so those can include like herniated disc or spinal stenosis, any types of fractures, any type of chronic pain that would limit your mobility and could also potentially cause paralysis. So these types of injuries often result from some type of a trauma, an accident, some type of degenerative condition. So, what can we do to help in those matters? And so, of course, we want to get medical treatment if there is any accident or any traumatic injury. We want to make sure that we seek medical attention immediately, right? But we also want to make sure we have a physical therapist, we get chiropractic care and surgery if it's needed to make sure that there is no ongoing damage. We also want to have pain management, so medications, also steroidal injections, nerve blockers can also help with the pain management in addition to the physical therapy that will strengthen the core and improve the flexibility. We want to also have lifestyle adjustments, implement ergonomic changes, right? Such as using supportive chairs, right? And making sure that we avoid heavy lifting, or if we do have to lift, that we lift the right way, right? So, those are some things that we can do to help in that situation. The next topic I want to talk about under physical brokenness would be stroke. A stroke is when the blood flow to a certain part of the brain is interrupted or reduced, and then it deprives the brain tissue from oxygen. And so that can lead to paralysis, to speech difficulties, even cognitive impairments. And so what can we do in this type of a situation? Usually rehabilitation is something that is required. Afterwards, it involves like physical therapy to improve the mobility and the strength, occupational therapy to relearn daily tasks because sometimes, most times, that is lost. Also, some speech therapy to help them to be able to regain their communication skills and be more effective in communicating with others. Also, would be medication management. Of course, there are things like blood thinners and blood pressure medications to prevent any additional or consecutive strokes from happening, but they can also help with the pain. Also, if needed, there you could use assistant devices. And what I mean by that are like walkers and canes, things that help you to mobilize while you are going through your recovery stage. And so all of those are things that pertain to brokenness in the body, right? And so there are many things that can happen that are outside of our control where we will or may go through some type of injury, things that we cannot control. We have to then at that point try to seek treatment so that we can recover and heal as best as possible. But for the things that we can control, right? There are things that we can control. Many of the issues or the ailments that I discussed, the majority of them are preventable. And so we want to make sure that we do our very best to control the things that we can, meaning that we make sure that we exercise, we make sure that we take our supplements, right? Those vitamins that we're usually deficient in, any vitamin or any supplement that could help to build us up in addition to making sure that we have healthy eating habits, right? That we make the right choices when it comes to food, making sure that we're taking extra steps, right? And making sure also that we have support systems and people that we could lean on in the event that we have these types of health challenges. And so physical wholeness is obtainable. So we talked about some of the things that you could do in order to treat some of the ailments, but we want to make sure that we also think about physical wholeness from the perspective of our bodies being vessels that carry us through life. And so we want to make sure that although we may experience some physical brokenness, it can show up by way of or present itself as illness or fatigue or feeling disconnected from our bodies, right? Or some type of injury. But physical wholeness is definitely obtainable. It isn't just about looking a certain way but it's about feeling strong, it's about being strong, it's about being energized and comfortable in our own skin, being healthy enough to do the things that we need to do. So we want to make sure that we nourish our bodies, we take in the right foods, that we stay active, we get enough rest. Rest is always one that we just kind of overlook, but that's when the body replenishes itself and it heals itself. It's in the rest. So it's important that we get adequate amounts of rest and that we make sure we listen to what our body needs, right? Sometimes we push and we keep moving, and we don't stop to listen. It's important to listen to what your body needs. And it's important to take a break, right? To let our bodies heal. And it's okay. It's okay to take a break. It's all right to say no and put up boundaries so that you can take care of you. If you don't take care of yourself, who will? And so, overall, what can we do? It starts by taking small steps to sustainable changes. Maybe we can start with just drinking more water per day. That can be helpful. A lot of times we are dehydrated, and so a lot of ailments come upon us because we're dehydrated. So we can drink more water. We can take more steps. We're supposed to be doing our 10,000 steps per day. So let's try to do that as much as we can, but get up and get moving. And really, we need to be committed to taking care of ourselves. We have to be intentional about it, or else it will not be done. Today, we talked about brokenness and how to become whole physically. Remember, we don't become healed without effort. We don't become whole without working on it, right? So we have to be very intentional about working on these things and making changes, making small changes, but making sustainable changes. It's a continuous journey, but wholeness is obtainable. So, we are at the end of our time together today. Join me next week as we continue this discussion from brokenness to wholeness. We'll be focusing next week on emotional and mental brokenness to wholeness. And as always, thank you so much for joining me today. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. You can also follow us on social media and visit us at our website for more updates and inspirational content. The links will be in the description below. And I am your host, Beatrice Hutcherson. And remember, your journey to wholeness, to complete wholeness, it starts here. And as we end, let us affirm together. Repeat after me. I decree that I will be whole physically. I declare that I am committed to being intentional about taking time to take care of myself so that I can become a healthier and more fulfilled version of myself. My prayer for each of you is that you will receive healing and complete wholeness physically, that at the end of our journey, that you will never again be the same. Until next Wednesday, take care of yourself, mind, body, and soul. Stay blessed and be made whole.
We thank you for sharing this time with us here at Wholeness Wednesdays. Thank you for joining us to explore and experience this journey to complete wholeness. Please remember that we are only an email away. Your questions and input are welcome via bhutch@completelywhole1.com. See you next time here at Wholeness Wednesdays.